Power doesn't care about your feelings, bro. You know that infamous line from Machiavelli's The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved"? Yeah, that one. People have been hating on it for like 5 centuries. It's cold, ruthless, almost sociopathic. But here's the plot twist nobody talks about. Behind that savage pragmatism is actually a deep psychological truth about human nature. A truth we still ignore because we're addicted to this modern-day worship of empathy like it's some holy, untouchable thing. See, Machiavelli wasn't just some shady political puppet master. The guy was a psychological sniper. He saw through people. And when he talked about empathy, or what he would have called excessive empathy, he wasn't trying to cancel kindness. He was just pointing out a truth most people don't want to hear. Empathy can be a liability. Yep, that warm, fuzzy feeling. If you don't pair it with strategy, it becomes a weakness, a big, juicy, exploitable weakness. Not because Machiavelli hated people, but because he understood how people actually behave when no one's watching. Power doesn't care about your feelings, bro. Just like gravity doesn't care if you meant well before you fell off a cliff. That's how real power works. Empathy, when misused or thrown around without thinking, doesn't elevate leadership, it kills it. And honestly, the question isn't, was Machiavelli a good guy? It's, was he right about how the world works? And if we're being honest with ourselves, the answer's a scary yes. When he said, "Men are so simple and so obedient to immediate needs that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived," he wasn't being edgy. He was pointing at the exact bug in the human operating system, especially in those of us who are too empathetic. That's the empathy trap. The more you pride yourself on feeling others, the easier it is for people to read you like a children's book. Your emotions become predictable. Your reactions become programmable because you ain't thinking, you're just feeling. And that's how manipulators love it. Machiavelli's not just throwing political advice here. He's spitting psychological facts. The trap has 3 steps. First, the empathetic person assumes others feel like they do. Second, that assumption creates blind spots where manipulation sneaks in. Third, when they do get played, they double down on being nice instead of adapting and responding with strategy. And just like that, they get stuck in a cycle, getting played on repeat. Machiavelli saw this over and over. The ruler who forgave betrayal out of pity, boom, betrayed again. The leader who was merciful to enemies, guess what? Enemies use that mercy as a weapon. And the prince who cared more about being loved than respected, yeah, he learned the hard way that love disappears real quick when your power fades. He said, men are less hesitant to harm someone who makes himself loved than one who makes himself feared. Not because people are evil, but because they're practical. If they can get away with something, they will. And the nice guy leader who doesn't get that, he ends up used, stepped on, or worse, forgotten. Even modern psychology backs this up. Studies show people with high empathy scores, they get played more in negotiations. Why? Because their emotions create predictable pressure points. And the most dangerous thing empathy does, it messes with your risk radar. You stop thinking long term. You zoom in on pain right now and forget the bigger picture. That's what psychologists call the identifiable victim effect. Your brain wants to save the person crying in front of you, even if saving them today screws over 10 people tomorrow. So what happens? You become morally flexible when it matters most. Yesterday's promise, today's excuse, justified. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. He understood what modern game theory now calls credible commitment. It's the ability to lock yourself into a decision even when it hurts. Empathy messes with that because every time someone tugs your heartstrings, you change your mind. And let's be real, love and fear don't coexist well. If you gotta pick, better to be feared. Not because love is useless, but because leadership isn't therapy. It needs emotional stability, not emotional chaos. Empathy turns into weakness in 3 ways. You start playing favorites based on feelings. That makes your boundaries unpredictable. And once people see you're inconsistent, they start testing you. Machiavelli noticed it in how invaders ruled new territories. The ones who came in hot, laid down the law, then ruled fairly, stable. The ones who started soft and only turned tough later, rebellion, non-stop. Early pain prevented bigger pain later, but pure empathy doesn't get that. It wants to treat everyone like a special case. Leaders who hold firm, even when it makes them unpopular, end up being respected more than the ones who bend to emotion. That consistency might look cruel, but it creates a kind of safety, a predictability people trust. The most dangerous trap of empathy is what game theorists call the ratchet effect. Every time you give in emotionally, it becomes the new baseline, and people start expecting more emotional giveaways till there's nothing left. Your authority, gone, eaten alive by your own kindness. So no, empathy isn't just a personal weakness, it's a resource. And the cold truth, people will farm it. If you've got it and you don't protect it with strategy, someone out there is already thinking of how to harvest it. Machiavelli didn't say compassion was useless. He said compassion without strategy is like giving candy to someone who's robbing your house. The guy who wants to be good in everything, he'll end up miserable in a world that doesn't care. We see it in The Prince, we see it in discourses on Livy. The ruler who shows mercy, crime rises. Why? Because criminals now calculate softer consequences. The leader who forgives betrayal, bigger betrayals show up next. The prince who wants love over fear finds out love disappears exactly when he needs loyalty most. People are quicker to hurt someone who makes himself lovable than someone who makes himself untouchable, because love is tied to expectations, and people suck at keeping promises when it's not in their best interest. It hurts to hear, but it's backed by behavioral economics. Psychologists even have a name for the way empathy gets used: moral licensing. You do one good deed, and suddenly you feel like you've earned the right to do something selfish next. Machiavelli saw this in rulers who built their power on being adored. They handed out empathy like candy and got eaten alive when the wolves showed up.